All right, what's going on, everybody? My name is Francois Biarthanas. I am one of the lead cybersecurity instructor here at Cyberkraft. Now, if you are watching this video from YouTube, please note that this video is kind of an addition to some of the other videos that I've recorded before of how to set up a cybersecurity home lab. Now, I will link the previous video into the description. Which it was just 3 videos that goes in and tell you how to get your home lab ready, right? Setting it up Metasploitable, which is a vulnerable machine, setting it up Kali Linux, which is a attack box or a hacking machine, then setting it up a DC1 or domain controller 1, and then obviously setting it up a client machine. This was Windows 10 machine, although that I believe right now I have Windows 7 client. Anyway, so that's what we have, and if you don't have that, it doesn't mean you can follow along with what I'm doing. You can still do that, but I will expect that you have that home lab set up ready to go. Now, that's if you're watching this from YouTube. Now, if you are from our library, Cyberkraft library, and you already know that you will have to have done that before you can get to this video. All right, now that being said, in this video, right, in this section, I want to talk about setting it up a firewall, setting it up an open source firewall, specifically pfSense. We're going to download it, we're going to install it, we're going to set it up some rules. Then from there, we will also do some kind of open VPN, how to set up an open VPN. A lot of people are now working from home, so VPN setting it up a virtual private network has never been important than now. So I'm gonna teach you how to set that stuff up as well. So if you are studying for, let's say, Security Plus or CISA Plus certifications from CompTIA, this is a fantastic hands-on course, if you will, that you can be doing, right, to kind of get your hands dirty, get your hands involved, because some of the skills that you're going to be learning from this section, you can put those skills on your resume as well. So you can literally include that I've installed firewall, I've configured this, I've done that, and those are some of the things that they will be looking for as well. All right, without further ado, let's go and get started. Now, go to the browser, open up your Google Chrome, Firefox, Edge, whatever you're using, and let's go to pfSense, right? pfSense. Let's download the ISO file, right? Go to pfSense.org, then click on downloads. And here you see where it says architecture, click on select, then select the AMD 64-bit. Then under the installer, select the DVD image, right? DVD image. You can, under the mirror, you can select whichever that's closest to you. So I'll go with New York. I'll click on downloads. All right. Now, I did show you guys this already in the home lab, in the initial building of your home lab. But if you don't have, because this file right here is zipped right now. So if you don't have 7-zip, I want you to go to the browser and just search for 7-zip and just download this program, right? Grab the 64-bit, if you will. And that's what we're going to use to unzip this program. Unzip this so we can get access to the ISO file that we're looking for. All right, that being said, let me open up my location where I have my everything set up, because I don't want you to sit through the downloads. I've done that already. So the home lab, the Cyber Home Lab, it should be in your C drive if you've done the previous videos. And here, I got quite a few things, but what you should have is Metasploitable, Kali Linux, Server 2019, and the Windows 10. That's what you should have here as well. All right, now create a folder, just call it Firewall, and whenever this is finished downloading, just grab this and just dump it here. Right, just grab it from the downloads folder and just copy it here or move it here, whatever. Then just right click on it and then go to 7-zip and then extract the file here or extract the file. Just get the thing out of this .gz file, right? When you're done, you will get a folder, and this is what we're looking for. right, now once you finish with that, the next step is to get everything ready with the VirtualBox. Now again, I do show you how to install VirtualBox in the setting it up your home lab. So if you're not there yet, please go back and watch those videos. All right, so what I will do, I will click on a new, and then I'm gonna call this pfSense. pfSense, let me just name it Firewall, just to help me remember this. Then in a type, this is going to be a BSD. Right? It's a flavor of a Unix. This is not a Linux. It's a flavor of Unix, and that's what we're gonna use. So click next. After you select the version, which is a free BSD 64-bit, click next. Then as far as the memory goes, push that to 2 gig, which is going to be 2048 megabyte. All right, then click next. The hard drive, don't change anything. Click on create. Don't change anything here. Click next. Dynamic, yes, absolutely. Click next. And here you can push this to maybe 25 gigabytes of storage, but I'm just gonna leave it on default. Click create, and that's it. This thing is created now. The next step is to right click on this and then change a few things. So right click on it and then go to settings. This will take us to this location. This thing will pop up. Here, let's go to system. Let's go to processor. Let's give this thing 2 processor, right? I want this to be as fast as possible. And let's go to a USB. Let's disable the USBs. I've had VirtualBox issues because USB was turned on, and you don't need that for the home lab that we're doing. You don't need that for the lab that we're doing. So disable that, then go to the network section and change. You see what it says attached to? Change that to a bridged adapter. The reason why we're changing this to a bridged adapter is because I want my virtual firewall to work with my physical machine. Right? I want this to be as real world as possible. So you will see everything that I mean, you know, in a bit as we go on here. But that's it. Once you finish making those little changes, click OK. And then double click on pfSense or click on start. Right? All right, and that's gonna start pfSense. And the first thing pfSense is going to ask you, hey, select the ISO file that we just finished downloading. So I'm going to go to that little folder, click on that, then I'm going to click on add. Right, click on add. It will take me to my file explorer, and technically it should take me to some kind of location. So you will navigate where you have your pfSense stored. If it's in a download folder, go there. But mine is in a Cyber Home Lab, which I believe that's where you should have everything organized, right? Keep everything organized. All right, Firewall, and then open up pfSense, select that, click on open. It's gonna bring in pfSense. I'm gonna choose that, click on choose. Now that's selected, I will click on start. Okay, this will go ahead and start installing pfSense. Let me close that little notification there as well. All right, so the installation process of pfSense is really straightforward. It's very not complicated. It should take about a few minutes. But like I said, once you go through the whole thing, then you can put this on a resume. Be like, okay, experience installing pfSense and configuring pfSense, or experience with Firewall as it relates to installing it and doing some basic configurations as well. All right, so pfSense, here they're giving us the copyright information. So from now on forward, we're just gonna use the keyboard. So on the keyboard, hit enter. It will take you to the welcome to pfSense install. So install pfSense, hit enter again, and continue with the default. Absolutely, click on select by hitting enter again. And then here is where I want you to be careful. They ask you, how would you like to partition your disk? We want to do this via the BIOS. You can use the UEFI, or you can use UEFI, but let's go with the BIOS for now. So use the upper arrow key on your keyboard and then select UEFI, hit enter. And that's gonna go ahead and do the installation. It's gonna go ahead, extract the files, copying everything from the ISO program into my my virtual hard disk, if you will, my VirtualBox hard disk, or hard drive. All right, so that should be finished. And right now it's telling you, oh, is there anything else that you want to make change of? And the answer is no. Right, so just hit enter on your keyboard. Then it's going to reboot. Now check this out. As soon as it's starting rebooting, I want you to close it. Right, so we're going to hit enter on the keyboard to reboot it. Then I just want you to close it. As soon as I start doing that, just close it. Right, so I'm going to hit enter. Just wait a little bit. And it should be rebooting here. There we go. It's rebooting. So I'm going to go ahead and just close that. Oops, minimize it. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Power off. Okay. Power off the machine. Click OK. Now that the machine is powered off, here's what we're going to do. Right click on it and go to settings. And then go to storage. Then remove the ISO program. Because the thing is this, if you don't remove this, then it's just gonna loop. It's gonna keep reinstalling over and over and over again. And you don't want that. So remove this. Very critical you do this. I'm gonna right click on it, click on remove the attachment, right click on it, remove attachment, then remove, and click OK. Then double click on the program again to finalize the installation process. Okay. So there will be a few things that we are going to be configuring moving forward. So let's give it a minute for pfSense to load up. And we should be in business. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close these little pop-up notifications. Those who know me, I really don't like those in VirtualBox. I think they're kind of annoying. And here we are, almost there. There we go. Here we are. So here they're saying, okay, should we configure VLANs? And the answer is no. Right? We don't want to mess around with the VLAN right now. So no, just type in no, and then hit enter on your keyboard, and then enter a WAN interface. Right. So the WAN interface is going to be the EM0. Yours might be different, but mine right now is EM0. So EM0. I'm gonna hit enter again. And now they're asking me to configure LAN, the LAN interface, and the answer is no. So let's not do anything. Don't do anything. Don't type anything. Just hit enter again, because we only want to configure WAN for now. Like I said, this is going to be very basic. So I'm gonna hit yes. When they say, "Do you want to proceed?" Just like hit yes, or just type Y, if you will, and then hit enter. And this is going to go ahead and just kind of finalize the whole process of installing pfSense. Okay, so let's just give it a minute for everything to finalize. And again, guys, if you do get stuck, please do join Discord so I can get you up to the speed. So here we have the home lab where people are sharing all kinds of resources and stuff. And we have some more resources here as well. So if you want me to help you, if you want anybody part of the team here to help you, please do join our Discord server, and it will make sure that you get the help you need. All right, that being said, everything is up and running. All right, look at that. So first of all, we can see that the WAN, which is EM0, have an IP address right now. So what I would like to do is open up Notepad and just make a note of that. So home lab, I'm gonna call this my cyber home lab, right? And this particular is pfSense. So I'm gonna say IP will be 192.168.1.253. all right. The mask, as you've seen, it's /24. All right, we need all this information. The last thing we need that I don't see here is the gateway, right? Your default gateway. Your router's IP address, right? And the way to find that is by going to the browser. Remember, we breached the network. So technically, this machine right now, it's on my home network right now, right? So what I would do, I'll go to my physical machine, go to CMD or command prompt, right? Hit enter, bring that thing up, and just type in ipconfig/all. Right, I do ipconfig/all, and my Wi-Fi is there, so I'm gonna grab the default gateway for that as well. So that will be that guy right here. So 192.168.1.254. I'm gonna go here and just note that here, 192.168.1.254. All right, now the reason why I'm writing all this down is because we're going to use all this information in a minute. So please keep it clean, because otherwise you will get confused very quickly. All right, now that we have this here, let's go back to pfSense for a minute. Now, here you can make some changes if you want to on the right here, like on this terminal right now. So for example, if I want to assign a different interface, I can just type 1. If my numlock will be on, type 1 and then hit enter, and then you're just gonna go ahead and assign interfaces. If I want to set interface IP address, I can just say 2, and therefore, and from there I will be able to statically change that IP address, which I don't want to do that right now. So what I will do, and remember, this is a firewall. So a firewall should never receive an IP address from a DHCP server, like ever. So we need to statically assign this IP address, and I'm going to do that from the console. I'm not going to do that from here. I will show you how to do that later on as well. But as you've seen, these are all the settings that we can, all the kind of changes that we can make to the firewall. All right. Now that we have the IP address that we need, let me just grab that. Let's open up a browser. Grab that, open up a browser, go to google.com, and let me just close that. And let me just paste that IP address here, right? 192.168.1.254. Now just paste that in there, hit enter on your keyboard, and now the browser is telling, hey, I don't trust this certificate, right? Is issued by pfSense, and pfSense is not a public certification authority. Again, a lot of this stuff, we talk about this in the Security Plus class. So if you really, if you don't understand all these things, please do join some of the training that we offer. All right, so what I will do, I'll click on advanced, then proceed. And the default username and password of pfSense is admin, and the password is pfSense. Okay, all lowercase. So admin pfSense, admin pfSense. I'm repeating that because whenever you're doing some of these demos, sometimes you don't catch that, and people tend to just be like, oh, what was the default stuff again? So admin pfSense. And we will be changing that in a minute. As you've seen here, there's a warning that talks about changing that. So what we're going to do is finalize the wizard. So pfSense setup. Click on next. There's this little warning. I'm going to click I understand and just keep going. All right. And they want us to sign in again. A little bit weird. I don't know why they're doing that, but it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. And I accept this. And looks like they literally just took us to the dashboard. All right, so let's go to the wizard so you can see how the host change should be made. So click on system, and then go to setup wizard. Setup wizard, you're gonna take us to the same page because I want to make a few changes before. The default password is still default, so before we use the firewall, I want to make a few changes. Click next. Next again. Once we're here, I'll leave everything on default, but just as the primary DNS server, let's use Google's DNS, which is 8.8.8.8. Right? Google's DNS server, right? Click next. And once we're here, click next. Then here, this is where we're gonna change the WAN interfaces from DHCP to static. So select the type, go ahead and select static. And then we're going to manually assign that IP address here. So scroll down a little bit to where you see static IP config or configurations. And right here, the IP address is what you see in the browser. So it's going to be 192.168.1.253. Yours will be different, obviously. But type that in there. And the mask was /24. And the upstream gateway was the router's IP address. So if I go back here, I think it was the 254, right? So 192.168.1.254, right? Put that in there, 54. And as soon as we finish with that, we can just scroll down and just click next, okay? So nothing else that we need to do there. Now it's time to change the default passwords. So let's just create a secure password that you will remember. Then when you finish with that, just click next. And as soon as you finish with that, click on reload. And it's gonna take a completely just 1 minute to reload the whole thing. Now that's finished, click on finish. We're gonna accept the copyright again, close that. And here, this is the dashboard as you just saw a minute ago, right? And you can literally change this. You can decide what you want to see. So you can, if you want to see captive portal status, all those things can be displayed here if you just want to look at them at a glance. So that's there. We're not going to mess around with that. To that point though, please do take a minute to familiarize yourself with pfSense. Right, I'm not gonna go in and just explain each one of these and what they do, but do take a minute, just click around. You're not gonna break anything. Click around. If you are studying for Security Plus, some of these should be like familiar to you, like OpenVPN, IP security, NAT, network address translation, wide area network. All these things should be kind of familiar to you. So please do take a minute to familiarize yourself with this stuff. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. First thing, this is the complete installation, right? So this is how you go in and install pfSense. What we're gonna do first is create a firewall rule. Now there's this classic kind of a performance-based question on the exam where CompTIA always asks you to create firewall rules. And what we're gonna do right now is gonna help you not only when you're preparing for the exam, but also in the real world, because most of the firewall works the same way. All right, we will create a rule, but before we do that, let's create what we normally call an alias, right? Before I even do that, let's do this. Let's find a website that we're going to be blocking, because we're going to create a rule that's going to block some kind of a website. All right, let's say that you don't want people to use Facebook, or you don't want people to use YouTube or anything like that. You can create a rule that's going to block that. So let me find, let me go online. I think there's this website known as Defend the Web. Defend the Web, we should be able to block this without any problem, right? Defendtheweb.com, you can play around with this. If you have trouble knowing which site you're free to attack or to hack or to block or to play around with, really, just do a quick Google search, right? They have a couple of them. There is hackthisSite.net or .org, I believe. There's this one. There's like at least 100 of them. All right, so in our situation, we're just gonna block this one, right? So let's go to CMD. Let's find out the IP address of this guy. So I'm gonna go to CMD or command prompt. CMD command prompt. Open that up, and I will say NSLookup. NSLookup is a tool that we will use on Windows environment to query DNS servers. And if you remember what DNS does, if you're familiar with some of the IT stuff, DNS, it's just a translator. We give it a name, it gives us the IP address. We give the IP address, it gives us a name. And NSLookup is a tool that helps us to do that stuff as well. So here I can just say defend the web.net. And then right there, then it's telling me, hey, look, the website for defendtheweb.net, that's the IP address. So let me make a note of that. I'm gonna come here and just defend the web, right? And I say IP is 3.10.42.19. All right, is that correct? That's correct. All right, now that we have that and we know our target, we know what we're looking at blocking, or looking at to block, let's go back to pfSense and let's create an alias. An alias is a placeholder, right? It's a placeholder. So I will click on add, and it's a placeholder for all kinds of things. So we can create this for a host, a network, a port, URL, you name it. All that is in here. So in our case, we will create this for a host, and you will see how this will be used in a minute as well. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just give it a name. So defend the web.net, right? Something like that. Description, I'm gonna leave that blank, but for the IP address, I'm gonna put that IP address in here, not that one. Put this IP address in there. So I'm gonna make a note of that. I'm gonna copy of that, put that in there, 3.10.42.19. As soon as I finish with that, I'm gonna click save, and now that's created. So I'm gonna save changes, and we're good to go there. The next thing we need to do is to create a firewall rule, right? So I'm gonna click on rules, and by default, I often tell students when I'm teaching security classes that firewall is a very mean device, because by default it's just blocking everything. Everything is blocked right now. So if I were to have my computer go through this firewall right now, I will not have access to the internet. The only thing that's allowed here is this anti-lockout rule, which is really just a fancy way of saying firewall, you got to be easy on yourself, right? If there was no this, we won't even access the interface that we're looking at right now. So this is just letting itself in pretty much. But everything else, there is what we normally call an implicit deny. You don't see it, is invisible, but implicit deny rule is here. All right, what we're gonna do is create a rule. So I'm gonna click on add, and majority of the firewall, almost all the firewalls works the same way, right? They have the same settings. I mean, some of the advanced ones from, let's say, Palo Alto or Checkpoint or Cisco, they might have a few different things, but by default, majority of the firewall will have similar settings to what you're looking at here. So once you get familiar with this, you can literally claim that you've configured firewalls before, and nobody will argue. They can put you in front of pretty much any firewall, and then you are not gonna. It's not like they just put you in the ocean and just let you drown, because you will have some basics as well. So let's talk about these as we configure them, right? The first thing here we see is action. Action is what the firewall is going to do. So as you can see, pass means let the traffic go through. Block means very mean, right? Just block anything that comes in. Then with the pfSense, we also have reject. And what reject means is that, okay, I'm still blocking you, but I will also let you know that I am blocking you. So in another word, there will be some kind of a packets that get sent back, packets that get sent back to the sender, telling them, hey, look, the message or the packets you're trying to send has been rejected. I can disable the rule. I can create the rule and disable it. Our action, by the way, is going to be block, because we're looking at blocking this IP address. Remember, so we're going to be blocking this thing. So block. That's the action we want to take. We can disable this if we don't want this to be active. Interface is going to be when, because that's what we want this rule to apply to. Address family, you can decide if it's going to be IPv4, IPv6. In our case, it's going to be IPv6, because as you've seen, that's the IP address we have here, IPv4 version. Protocol, it's going to be any, right? But we have a plethora. I was looking forward to say that word. But we have a plethora of protocols here that you can block as well. But what we're going to do, we're just going to say any. So block anything. Now source, where are we blocking this message? I mean, where is this message coming from? That's what the source is. So you can decide from what they've listed here. But again, all the firewalls are similar or almost similar. In our case, we're going to select network, because I want to block my entire home network to not access this website. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll click on network. I'm going to say 192.168.1.0. That's my home IP address network. And site annotation is going to be 24. This is your default. This is your subnet mask, right? And with that, what that means, anything. It could be a TV, a cell phone, anything that's connected to my home network, it will not be able to access this website. All right, and destination obviously is going to be this website. So you under the destination, just click on any, and then go to a single host or aliases. And here, this is where we're gonna pick the aliases that we created earlier. So I can just put that in there, and that's it. One last thing we can do here is to turn on logging. So if we want to, we can turn on logging. but we probably don't want to do that because if you have let's say a SIEM, that's CIEM, like a centralized logging device like Splunk or Elk or one of these things, right? Then you can turn this thing on and then be logging anything. So if anybody if there's any device that get caught up with this rule that's trying to visit this website, we will get a kind of a logging entry that will let us know, hey, someone is trying to do this thing. All right, I'm gonna click on save. Now the rule is created. Now, like I said, by default, the firewall is very mean, right? Very, very mean. So it's not gonna allow anything. There's still that implicit deny. So what we're going to do is to allow everything else. So I'm going to click on add, and here under the action I will pass under this WAN IPv4. Now protocol will say any, right? And source is going to be any, destination is going to be any, and just save. What this means is that it's going to block this IP address or this website, if you will, then allow everything else. All right, that's exactly what's going to happen. All right, finish with that. Click on save changes. Now that the changes have been saved, and let's say if I can still access this website, and the answer is yes, I can access the website. Okay, why? The reason is this. Let me go to my jump board here for a minute, and I'll be quick, I promise you. The reason is this. My computer right now, which is sitting here, is communicating with my firewall. No, it's communicating with my router, excuse me. It's communicating with my router, and my router is taking me to the internet. Remember, the default gateway, the router's IP address, is taking me to the internet. Now, for the rule that I just created to work, I need my computer to communicate with my firewall first. So the firewall that I just created, my pfSense, right, pfSense, and then this guy is gonna communicate with the router, and then from there we'll get to the internet. So I need this right here for the whole thing to work. Right now I have this. That's why this is still working. That's why I can access the website that I'm looking at blocking. But the rule is in there. The rule is working. It's just not being effective because the traffic is not going through the firewall yet. All right, so how do we make a change of that? Well, we'll go to the IP settings of my physical machine. In fact, let me just use my physical machine. So I'll go to control panel. I'll do it the old way. Then here I will go to the network and sharing center, right? Then I'll open up change adapter settings. I'll go to my Wi-Fi. I right click on it, go to properties. Then I'll go to IPv4, look for IPv4, and then go to properties again, and here we are. So by default, right now my computer is obtaining an IP address automatically, which means my router, my default gateway, which is acting as a DHCP server, is assigning an IP address to this guy. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna change that. So I'm gonna go to CMD one more time, find out what my IP address is, right? I'll say ipconfig /all, and here you can see my prefer. Where are you, buddy? That's the default gateway. If I scroll down a little bit, scroll up a little bit, you'll see this is my IPv4, and that's the IP address. That's my IP address. So I can open this up one more time. I can just go here and just call this host, right? May just say IP 192.168.1.203, right? That's my IP address, and I can minimize that. Go back to my IPv4 here, settings, click on use the following IP address, and just type that in here. So the IP address will be 192.168.1.203. I'm just looking at keeping it the same, right? And the subnet mask will be 255.255.255, which is an equivalent to that right there. And my default gateway is going to be my pfSense. Remember, we want the traffic. I want the traffic to go through my pfSense before it goes to my router and then get to the internet. Okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'll go back there, if I can bring that back up. And let me bring this back up again. just so you have both of them here. Then you can just say 192.168.1.253, and my preferred DNS will be my router's, my firewall IP address still. So I say 192.168.1.253, and my alternative here, let me just key in Google's IP address. All right, alternate. Key in Google's IP address, click OK, click close, and now it's identifying. Be careful with this because this will knock your Wi-Fi out and then just reconnect you again. Well, but we're looking at doing this, as real world as possible. But you can easily do the same thing we're doing with some of the other machines that you have on your network as well. All right. So now that we have that there, right now, if I were to go to the, let me go here. Let me just clear this. Let me CLS, clear that. Let me just say ipconfig. And as you can see, that's the IP address, and check my mask. Check my default gateway, that. And guess what that is? That's that guy's IP address. Right, that's the pfSense's IP address, which means I'm going through the pfSense right now. All right, so let's verify a few things. Now that this is there, that means the rule is being enforced. If I can go there, yeah, the rules are active. We've saved the changes. So if I try to visit the website one more time, it should not work. And sure enough, it's not working, right? So the firewall is blocking this rule right now. I just want to show it to you that it's not working, right? It's not working. And the reason is because of that rule. Okay. If we remove this rule right now, if I go back to my firewall rules, if we remove this rule right now and save the changes and try to refresh the page, now it's working. Okay. Now it's working because this is not active. As you can see, it's grayed out. Right. So that's it. That's how you really go in and configure firewall rules. Now do play around with this. You're not going to break anything. Do close, block stuff, allow stuff, reject stuff, and familiarize yourself with the interface as well. So this is the first part of the video. I'm gonna record the second part, and the second part is gonna be all about OpenVPN, which is fantastic. Let's dive right into that one, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.